Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to the KaiNexus Continuous Improvement Podcast. I'm Mark Graven from KaiNexus, and today we are doing a quick preview of a webinar that's going to be presented February 23rd, 1 o'clock Eastern, How to Build Organizational Habits That Create a Culture of Continuous Improvement. You can register for that at kainexus.com/webinars, or you can look for a link in the show notes to go and do that. So today we are joined by our two co-presenters for this session. They are Morgan Wright. She is a customer marketing manager for KaiNexus, and we're also joined by Dr. Greg Jacobson, co-founder and CEO of KaiNexus. So Morgan, Greg, thanks for being here. How are you today?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Mark.
So, I think in the discussion here today as a preview for the webinar, we'll set some of the context. We'll start with why. That's something we all like to do. Why this topic of habits? Why is this something that you've both been, digging so deeply into, reading about, thinking about, discussing? Morgan, what do you say?
Yeah, I would say kind of the first thing that comes to my mind is, as the customer marketing manager, a big part of my responsibilities is communications, right? How can we get our customers to utilize the platform more and really see the value in it and to make it a part of their daily routine, right? And so that's when it kind of clicked for us. I remember Greg talking to me last year after our user conference about this concept of a habit loop. And we really started diving in. We've been reading different books. We've been listening to different things. Really, how can we create these quote unquote habit loops for our different types of customers within our organization? So, what is that routine? Is it, submitting ideas every day? And how can we set people up for success where they're reminded to, submit that idea and where they're rewarded? So is it, a pat on the back? Is it they're, nominated to do, further honor roll monthly? So we've really been excited about this concept of, habit loops, and I'm sure we're going to keep learning more as we go along, but I think at this point, we're really excited to kind of share what we've discovered with our customers. And we think that everyone will be really excited about it.
Yeah. Have you found a bit of a learning habit loop as you're learning more about this? Does it kind of apply to learning about habit loops?
Absolutely. And even just your personal life, you start reading all these books and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many things that you could be implementing that kind of helps you in all facets of your life.
So, Greg, why is this topic so important to you?
Well, I'll say, Mark, I haven't been this excited about a body of knowledge probably since we did the leadership behavior talks over those 4 or 5 years ago, which are, by the way, great podcasts or webinars that are still in our library. But what are we doing here at KaiNexus? We're trying to help organizations create cultures of continuous improvement. What is culture? Culture is, I think, best defined by Seth Godin. People like us do things like this. So do things like this are behaviors. And so when I was initially introduced to these concepts, I just immediately gravitated towards them because there are ways in which you can design and become very intentional about your behaviors. And I applied them to my own personal life and started talking to them about, I started talking to people at KaiNexus about these concepts and musing on them on our Friday talks. And then there was this moment that wait a minute, we are trying to help organizations do behavioral organizational changes. And so what if we could be intentional about designing the habit loop of every type of person at an organization? And it just clicked. And so I'm excited. We've been talking about this. We've been reading. We've been studying this. And Morgan and I, for the last, I don't know if I've ever prepared more for a couple webinars. It's going to be obviously way more than that. I think in 3 to 5 years we'll be looking back at this is the beginning of being able to tap into kind of habit science and then applying that to an organization in an intentional manner in an intentional manner to produce a culture of continuous improvement. So I can't more highly recommend tuning in for a webinar.
Yeah. Well, I love how you're both connecting this concept to what our customers are trying to accomplish and what others who, people in our community who come to the webinars and they enjoy them and participate, of building a culture of continuous improvement. And Yeah, I know you're going to cover this more in the webinars, or I guess we're calling it a webinar series. We're going to put you on the hook for that. But it's not enough to have education or intent. It seems like those two things alone don't create the habit of really just perpetuating where it becomes the way we do things now. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. And I like that you pointed out, this isn't just for our customers. Of course, that's where our head went, but I think this is going to be super helpful for people, beyond the KaiNexus world who, whether they're in, CI or beyond that. So I think we're just really excited to share there.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, what are those 3 books real quickly? I know you'll show them and talk about them in the webinar, but if people can't wait for the webinar and they want to go digging into at least one of these now, what are those 3 books?
So the 3 books that we're going to be taking most of our knowledge from in kind of synthesizing it into the world of CI are Atomic Habits by Clear, Power of Habits by Duhigg, and Tiny Habits by Fogg. And that is a great order to read them in, but they're all very good. I think by the 3rd one, whichever is your 3rd one, you'll see that there are some themes in there, and then there are some nuanced differences that I think are probably all applicable. But I think if you are a CI coach, CI lead at your organization, then certainly the education, knowing how to do a DMAIC or an A3 or whatever kind of root cause analysis and or problem solving tools you're using, those are table stakes, right? Mm-hmm. That's just knowing what you need to know. Getting to that next level of being able to change the hearts and the minds of people that you're working with, to where you're going to get this kind of self-propagating culture of continuous improvement. You're going to need to tap into some of this behavioral science and this habit science that we're going to talk about. So,
yeah. Well, thank you, Morgan, and thank you, Greg. Again, we've been joined by Morgan Wright and Greg Jacobson from KaiNexus. The first of these webinars is titled How to Build Organizational Habits That Create a Culture of Continuous Improvement. You can register at kainexus.com/webinars, or again, you can look for a more specific link in the show notes. So if you're not already making it a habit to tune in for our webinars, we hope you will. There's a meta point maybe you can make in the webinar, how to turn attending KaiNexus webinars every month into a habit loop. And if you're not already listening to the podcast, we hope you'll make that a habit as well. So Morgan and Greg, thank you in advance for what you're going to be sharing with us. And thank you for giving us a preview and some of the background today.
Thank you so much.